My mother thinks you are worse than Wendy, and she wants me to end this. The metal of Luke's fork tapped rhythmically against his ceramic plate. Tap, tap, tap. A nervous habit he did not know he had. The smell of slightly burned bacon hung over the dining table. I had left the carbonara on the stove too long because I was talking. I was 28 years old, a freelance graphic designer who had barely designed anything in 2 years, and I had finally gotten an inquiry from a local coffee shop. I was telling him about their color palette. I was excited. Then he spoke. I looked at the candle flickering between us. The flame caught the edge of the diamond ring on my left hand. "What did you say?" I asked. Luke did not look up from his phone resting near his water glass. His thumb scrolled absent-mindedly. "I talked to Mom today. She said some things. About us." "What things?" My hand stayed suspended in the air. I did not put my fork down. He sighed, the heavy, rehearsed sigh of someone delivering bad news they had practiced in the mirror. "She says you are worse than my ex. She wants me to break up with you." The room went completely silent. The lo-fi playlist switched to a new track on the speaker, a slow piano melody. I stared at him. I waited for the punchline. There was none. My brain processed the words slowly. His mother. Connie. The woman who taught me how to make this exact pasta dish. The system was rejecting me. 4 years in Portland. 4 years of trying to fit perfectly into his life, wearing the neutral tones he liked, keeping my hair in a messy bun, shrinking my own business so I could plan our wedding. Not enough. My mother left my father when I was 14. She told me she should have left sooner. I learned a lesson then. Leaving meant strength. Leaving before you got pushed out meant you survived. "I see," I said. 2 words. Flat and quiet. I stood up. I walked into the bedroom. I pulled my suitcase from the closet. I folded the clothes he bought me. I grabbed my drawing tablet and the old iPad from the nightstand because my design files were still on it. My phone screen lit up on the bed. A message thread from Connie. I saw her last text from 4 days ago. I did not open it. I just looked at the preview. I zipped the suitcase. Luke stood in the doorway. He watched me pack. He did not step forward. He did not try to touch my arm. I walked past him. I opened the front door. The lock clicked shut behind me. The budget motel off the highway smelled of stale bleach and old carpets. The curtains were thin. They let in the harsh yellow light from the parking lot. I sat on the edge of the bed. My suitcase remained on the floor, unopened. The iPad rested on the cheap laminate desk. My phone buzzed against my leg. Luke calling. 3 times in a row. I watched the screen go dark. I dialed Sasha instead. Sasha was a senior designer at the agency where I used to freelance. She was 38. She was the only person in Portland I knew who was not introduced to me by Luke. She answered on the second ring. "It is 11 at night," Sasha said. Her voice was raspy with sleep. "Luke's mom wants him to break up with me," I said. My voice sounded hollow, empty. So I left. The line went quiet. I heard the rustle of sheets as Sasha sat up. "Wait, his mother told him to dump you, yes. She said I am worse than his ex." Silence stretched for 3 full seconds. Connie said that Sasha asked. "Connie who texts you apple crisp recipes? Yes. That does not track Kristen." I stared at the peeling wallpaper. "What do you mean you left because he said his mom said something?" Sasha's tone shifted. The dryness disappeared. "Girl, you left your whole life on someone else's word." "When was the last time you left because of your own word?" I opened my mouth. I closed it. I had moved from Boise to Portland because Luke needed me here. I stopped taking big clients because Luke said I was too busy with wedding planning. I had no answer for her. "Where are you?" she asked. "A motel off Interstate 84. Lock the door. Do not answer his calls. We will figure this out tomorrow." I hung up. The silence of the room rushed back in. I lay back on the stiff mattress. I did not take off my shoes. Morning light hit my face like an interrogation lamp. The thin curtains did nothing to stop the glare. I sat up. My eyes felt heavy and swollen, though I had no memory of crying. I picked up my phone from the nightstand. 7 missed calls from Luke, 1 voicemail, 2 text messages from Connie. The first arrived just after midnight. "Kristen, honey, are you okay? Luke said you just left." The second came 10 minutes ago. "Please call me. I am confused about what happened." Confused. That specific word anchored me. I stared at the glowing screen for 30 seconds. The air in the room felt suddenly very still. I tapped her name. Connie picked up before the first ring finished. "Oh, thank God," she breathed. "Kristen, honey, what happened? Luke called me last night saying you just packed up and left." He is beside himself. I swallowed the dry lump in my throat. I spoke carefully, slowly. "Connie, Luke told me you said I am worse than Wendy, that you want him to break up with me." Total silence on the other end. It was not the silence of someone caught in a lie. It was the silence of a woman who had just been struck. "He said what he said. You called me worse than his ex. That you want us to end, Kristen." Her voice trembled. A deep, resonant shake that rattled through the speaker. I heard it, and I knew instantly it was the truth. I have never said anything close to that. 4 days ago, I sent you a text. "Honey, check your phone." I sent you a text saying how happy he is with you. I pulled the phone away from my ear. I opened our message thread. There it was, 4 days ago. "I have never seen him this happy. Thank you for loving my boy." The motel room spun. The faded carpet seemed to shift under my feet. If Connie did not say those words, then Luke made them up. If Luke made them up, why did he do it? Why invoke his own mother? Because he knew I would not fight her. He knew I valued peace over my own presence in a room. And if he lied about his own mother to push me out the door without a fight, what else had been a fabricated truth over the last 4 years? The times he said my friends back home were drifting away. The times he said my portfolio was not ready for bigger agencies. My brain snapped from the grief of rejection to the sharp, cold sting of betrayal. My jaw ached. I had been clenching my teeth without realizing it. "Honey, something is very wrong," Connie said. Her voice steadied. "My son lied to you and he lied to me. I am coming to you." "Where are you?" I gave her the address of the motel. I ended the call. I looked across the room. The iPad sat on the desk. It was his old tablet. I only took it because my design portfolio was saved on it, but it was still synced to his cloud account. I walked over to the desk. I stared at the blank screen. If he lied about his mother, what else was he hiding? I packed my single suitcase. I checked out of the motel by noon, handing the plastic keycard to a clerk who did not look up from her magazine. I drove straight to Sasha's apartment in the Pearl District. The drive felt like moving underwater. Every stoplight took an hour to change. I sat on her beige sofa and repeated the entire phone conversation word for word. Sasha listened. She leaned against her kitchen counter. She held a mug of black coffee and let 10 seconds pass when I finished speaking. "Okay," Sasha said. "So either his 61-year-old mother is running a masterclass gaslighting operation on you, or your fiancé lied." She took a sip of her coffee. Which one sounds more likely? My mind desperately sought the safest conclusion. I wanted the comfortable lie. Maybe it is a misunderstanding. Maybe Luke paraphrased something wrong. Maybe Connie forgot she said it. She is busy with the company. People say things when they are stressed. Sasha stepped away from the counter. She walked over to the sofa and sat down next to me. "You are doing that thing again," Sasha said. She set her mug down with a sharp clack on the coaster. "You are talking yourself out of your own reality. I did it for 6 years with my ex-husband. Stop!" She reached across the cushions. She picked up the iPad I had brought inside with me. She placed it gently on the glass coffee table directly in front of me. "Is this thing still synced to his cloud?" she asked. I looked at the silver metal casing. I looked at Sasha's unblinking eyes. I knew exactly what she was asking me to do. I also knew that if I opened it, if I looked inside, the life I had built in Portland would burn to the ground. There would be no going back to the comfortable dinners and the shared savings account. "Yes," I whispered. Sasha nodded. She did not push. She just waited. I reached out. My hand hovered over the glass surface. I pressed my thumb against the home button. The screen glowed to life, waiting for the passcode. I pressed my thumb against the home button. The screen unlocked. I did not open his messages. I tapped the Procreate icon because I needed to work. I needed to pull up the old logo file for the coffee shop and update my portfolio. I was dragging a mock-up across the canvas when a small chime echoed in the quiet living room. A notification banner slid down from the top edge of the screen. Sasha looked up from the kitchen island. The afternoon sunlight poured through her large windows, hitting the glass of the iPad. I had to tilt the device to read the text. It was a message from a contact saved simply as the letter A. "Can not wait for tonight, babe. Your place or mine now that she is gone." I stared at the words. I did not actively choose to open the messaging app. My finger just tapped the banner on its own. The screen transitioned to a long thread of blue and gray text bubbles. The history stretched back for months. All of it was downloading onto the device in my hands because Luke had forgotten to revoke my access. He thought I only used this tablet to draw. I read the messages backward. I started with the texts from 3 days ago. "One day before our dinner. So tonight is the night A wrote." "Yeah," Luke replied. "I will use the mom card. She will leave on her own." And the ring A asked. "Once she is out, I will say she gave it back," Luke wrote. "Mom will not know." "What about the house deposit?" A asked. "It is in joint savings, but I will move it." "She will not fight." "She never fights. She never fights." I read those 4 words 3 times. My hands felt cold. I set the tablet flat on the table because my fingers were starting to shake. I remembered every argument we ever had where I simply nodded. I remembered every time I said whatever you think is best. Every time I yielded my ground just to keep the peace in our apartment. Luke did not just know I avoided conflict. He counted on it. He built a financial exit strategy on the foundation of my compliance. "Jesus Christ," Sasha said softly. She was reading over my shoulder. I scrolled further up. I saw pet names. I saw dinner plans made for nights when he told me he had to work late at the construction site. I scrolled until a full name appeared in a text where he had accidentally pasted a contact card. Amber Voss, a marketing consultant in Portland. The earliest messages dated back 4 months. She had replied to his social media story at 1 a.m. I was asleep next to him in our bed when he sent his first reply to her. I pressed the side button and the screen went black. I looked up at Sasha. "I need to know everything I said." We spent the next 2 hours mapping out the wreck of my life. Amber Voss had a public social media profile. We sat on the sofa and scrolled through her pictures. She frequented the same coffee shops Luke liked. She posted a photo tagged at a downtown cocktail bar 2 weeks ago. In the picture, Amber was wearing an oversized flannel shirt. I recognized the green and black plaid pattern immediately. It was the shirt I washed and folded for him every Sunday. I opened the mail application on the iPad. I typed his name into the search bar. An email confirmation from Morrison Jewelers sat in his archived folder. The subject line read, "Appraisal complete." It was dated 6 days ago. The attached document listed the value of my engagement ring at $8,200. He did not break up with me and then decide to get the ring appraised. He got the jewelry appraised first. He calculated my value before he sat down to eat the pasta I cooked for him. Sasha placed her laptop on the coffee table. "Open your bank account," she said. I logged into our joint savings portal. The balance page loaded. Yesterday morning, that account held $37,400. $400. The current available balance was $2,400. He had initiated a transfer of $35,000 in the middle of the night. He did it while I was sitting in a budget motel wondering why his mother hated me. He moved 35 grand in one night, Sasha said. Her voice lacked its usual edge. It was just flat with shock. I stared at the screen. That money was not his. The bulk of that deposit came from the freelance contracts I took 3 years ago, before I stopped working to plan our wedding. $2,400. That was all I had left in the world. The buzzer by the front door rang at noon on Saturday. Sasha pressed the intercom button and buzzed the guest upstairs. A minute later, a heavy knock echoed in the hallway. Sasha opened the door. Connie stood in the threshold. She carried 2 large brown paper grocery bags. Her silver bob haircut was slightly windblown. She wore her usual silk scarf draped around her neck. She walked into the apartment and set the heavy bags on the kitchen counter. The paper rustled loudly in the quiet room. She took one look at my face and pulled out a tall stool. She sat down. She did not ask if I was okay. She just waited for me to speak. I told her about Amber. I told her about the text messages. I repeated the exact phrase her son used. I will use the mom card. I told her about the money he transferred while I slept. Connie listened without interrupting. Her hands rested flat on her knees. When I finished, the apartment was completely silent. I heard the hum of the refrigerator, Connie said. Her voice shook, but she forced the word out. What? I asked. Luke dated Wendy Sato before you, Connie said. She left 3 years ago. Luke told me she just could not handle being part of a family. I believed him. I looked at Sasha. Sasha looked back at me. Did he tell her the same thing? I asked. Did he tell her that you did not want her? I think we need to find out, Connie replied. I watched Connie pull her phone from her purse. She was 61 years old. She managed the administration for a commercial construction company. She was not a woman who shied away from hard truths. She realized in that moment that her only son did not just deceive the women he dated. He deceived her. He used her name and her love for him as a weapon to clear his own path. What do you need from me? Connie asked. Sasha leaned against the counter. Why did he not just tell the truth? Sasha asked the room. Why not just say he met someone else? Because if he is the one who leaves, he is the bad guy, I said. The realization formed clearly in my mind. If I leave on my own, he is the victim. And the victim gets to keep the ring. The victim gets to keep the money. The victim gets to control the story everyone hears. Connie unlocked her phone. She opened her social media app and typed Wendy Sato into the search bar. She found the profile and tapped the call button. The line rang on speakerphone. Hello, a woman answered cautiously. Wendy, this is Connie Mercer. A long, heavy silence filled the line. I could hear the faint sound of traffic through Wendy's phone. He told me you hated me, Wendy finally said. Her voice was tight. He said you called me white trash. Honey, Connie said, her voice breaking for the first time. I crocheted you a Christmas stocking. The pattern was undeniable. 2 different women. The exact same script. The exact same weapon used against us. Connie ended the call. She placed her phone face down on the kitchen island. She looked at me. Her eyes were hard and clear. He thinks you will just disappear quietly, Sasha said. Because that is what you do. I looked at the blank screen of the iPad. I thought about the 4 years I spent shrinking myself to fit into his life. I thought about the $35,000 he stole from me. I thought about the way he tapped his fork against his plate while he lied to my face. I do not want to disappear, I said. I need to look him in the face and hear him say it. My phone began to vibrate against the glass surface of Sasha's coffee table early Sunday morning. The screen illuminated the dim living room. I watched a name pop up. Then another. These were people I spent every weekend with. People I hosted for holiday dinners in the apartment I no longer lived in. I picked up the device. The notifications piled over each other. Luke was awake, and he was working. He was not executing an evil master plan. He was just doing what he always did. He was controlling the room. "Hey, Chris," a text from a groomsman read. "Luke said you have been going through a rough time. Are you okay?" A message from his cousin arrived a minute later. "Luke told us you just left out of nowhere. He is really worried about you." I stared at the glowing rectangle in my palm. He was framing the narrative perfectly. He was the concerned, heartbroken fiancé. I was the unstable woman who fled into the night for no reason. He knew that whoever told the story first became the author of the truth. Then a text from Jess appeared. Jess was the only person in Portland I considered my own friend. "We met at a yoga studio 2 years ago. I thought our bond existed outside of him. Luke called me," Jess wrote. "He is crying, Chris. Whatever happened, he loves you. Maybe come home." I read the word home. I looked around Sasha's guest area. I had a suitcase and $2,400. I did not have a home. The friends I thought I had were just his audience. He did not just take the apartment and the savings account. He took the entire reality we shared and twisted it so he could remain the good guy. "Do not reply," Sasha said. She walked into the living room and handed me a glass of water. "Not to any of them." Not yet. I set the phone face down on the table. The doorbell rang at 7 o'clock that evening. A light rain was falling over the city, pattering softly against the living room window. Sasha was in her bedroom. I walked to the front door and pressed my eye against the small glass peephole. Luke stood in the hallway. The harsh, fluorescent lights above cast deep shadows under his eyes. His eyes were red. He wore his faded gray college hoodie. It was his uniform for vulnerability. He held a small bouquet of yellow tulips in his right hand. They were my favorite flower. The smell of his cedar cologne seeped through the tiny crack between the door and the frame. That scent used to mean safety. It used to mean the end of a long day. Now my stomach violently contracted at the smell of it. I unlocked the deadbolt. I opened the door just enough to stand in the threshold. I did not step aside to let him in. He looked at my face. He immediately launched into the first phase. "The charm. Baby," he whispered. His voice was thick with unshed tears. "I am so sorry. I said it wrong the other night. I should never have brought up Mom. Can we please just talk?" He held out the wet tulips. I looked at the flowers. I did not reach for them. My hands remained flat against my sides. "There is nothing to talk about," I said. He dropped his arm. The softness in his expression tightened just a fraction. He shifted smoothly into the second phase. "The recalculation. Kristen, I think you misheard what I said," he reasoned. His tone became gentle and patronizing. "I was trying to talk about the concerns Mom had about our timeline, not her demands. You took it the wrong way and you just left. You are spiraling again. I misheard you," I repeated. "Yes," he said. "Look, so I was not perfect in how I communicated. But you left Chris. You did not even give me a chance to explain myself. That hurt me too. You abandoned us." He was minimizing the event. He was making my reaction the problem rather than his lie. "Did I mishear Amber Voss?" I asked. The name hung in the humid hallway air. The transformation was instantaneous. The red, teary eyes snapped into a flat, dead stare. The charm evaporated. The wounded boy vanished. "You went through my stuff?" he asked. His voice dropped an octave. It was no longer soft. "You went through my iPad." "My iPad," I corrected him. "My design files are on it. Your text just popped up on the screen." "That is a complete violation of my privacy," he snapped. He stepped closer to the door. "You had no right to look at my messages." "You told Amber she never fights," I said. "You told her you would use the mom card." He pressed his jaw forward. What exactly did my mother tell you? That she never said those things, I answered. That you made it up. That you used her to get rid of me so you could keep the house deposit. My mom is 61, he said smoothly. She forgets things. She sent me a text 4 days ago saying she has never seen you happier, I said. He stopped. He blinked twice. He had rehearsed the apology for the misunderstanding. He had rehearsed the anger for the invasion of privacy. He had not rehearsed a defense against a digital timestamp. He looked at me. He really looked at me. He dropped the tulips onto the hallway carpet. Look, Luke said. The temperature in the hallway seemed to plummet. His voice was measured and incredibly cold. You need to really think about what you are doing here, Kristen. You have what? A suitcase, a cheap motel. You do not have a job. You do not have friends here. I mean real friends. You left Boise 5 years ago. You have nothing in this city that is not connected to me. Silence filled the space between us. I stared at the man I had planned to marry. For the very first time, I saw him completely clearly. He was not afraid of losing me. He was afraid of losing control over the narrative. I was not his partner. I was a prop in his life story. And when the prop stopped working, he found a new one. But seeing the truth did not make me feel powerful. It hollowed me out. Because he was right. I had nothing. I stepped back. I closed the door until it clicked shut. I did not lock it immediately. I just slid my back down the solid wood until I hit the floor. Sasha walked out of her bedroom. She saw my face. She came over and sat down on the hardwood floor right next to me. It was 3 a.m. I was sitting on the linoleum floor of Sasha's kitchen, my spine pressed against the stainless steel front of her refrigerator. The cold metal seeped through my thin cotton shirt, but I did not lean forward. I needed the freezing contact to remind me I was still physically present in the room. The dishwasher hummed a low, steady vibration beside the sink. The mechanical cycle pushed water against the plates inside. The world was still operating. Time was still moving forward even though my entire existence had stopped. Sasha sat on the floor directly opposite me. She had her knees pulled to her chest. A mug of peppermint tea rested on the floor beside her foot. The steam had stopped rising from the cup 2 hours ago. The liquid inside was completely cold. She did not speak. She did not offer platitudes. She just shared the dark space with me. I traced the grout lines between the floor tiles with my index finger. I watched my own hand moving. I looked back at the last 5 years. When I was 23, I packed my childhood bedroom in Boise into 4 cardboard boxes. My mother had stood in the doorway and asked if I was sure about moving. I told her Luke needed me in Portland. Nobody asked what I needed. I did not even ask myself. When I was 24, a local agency offered me a large freelance contract to design a branding package for a regional coffee chain. Luke told me I was too busy planning our wedding to take on that kind of stress. I declined the offer. The client hired someone else. When I was 25, I called my best friend Mackenzie in Boise. She asked me if I was okay because I sounded so different. I told her I was happy. I hung up the phone and sat in my parked car for 20 minutes before walking into the apartment I shared with Luke. When I was 26, Connie stood next to me at the stove and taught me how to temper eggs for carbonara. It was the only authentic moment I had because Connie did not require me to shrink myself. She just wanted to share a meal. When I was 27, Luke knelt on the wet pavement near Multnomah Falls and held out a diamond ring. I cried. Now, pressing my cold back against the refrigerator, I wondered if I cried because I loved him, or if I cried out of sheer relief because someone had finally chosen to keep me. My parents divorced when I was 14. My mother told me she should have left years earlier. I absorbed that lesson backward. I thought leaving early meant you were strong. So, when Luke delivered his mother's fake ultimatum at the dining table, I packed my bag instantly. I left before I could be discarded. I thought I was protecting myself. But what was I protecting? A life I never even owned. I left Boise for him. I stayed in Portland for him. I had never made a single geographic move or professional choice for myself. Luke was absolutely correct in the hallway. I had nothing. But that was not his fault. He took my money and he took my pride, but the emptiness was mine. I had nothing because I had spent 5 years building his life instead of my own. The dishwasher shifted into its draining cycle with a loud gurgle. Sasha finally spoke. Her voice was quiet in the dark kitchen. The digital clock on the microwave glowed 3:47. You know what the worst part of my divorce was, not, Sasha said. She rested her chin on her knees. It was not finding out he cheated. It was realizing I had spent 6 years being Tyler's wife, and I did not know what I liked for breakfast. I stopped tracing the grout line. I looked up at her silhouette. I do not need answers from him anymore, I said. My voice sounded different in the quiet room. It was flat, but not from shock. It was clear. No, Sasha asked softly. No, I replied. I need to answer my own question. Who am I if I am not his fiancé? Sasha reached down and picked up her cold mug of tea. She took a sip without flinching. That is the first real thing you have said since I have known you. I pushed my palms against the linoleum. I stood up. My knees popped loudly in the quiet space. The cold air of the kitchen rushed over my back where the refrigerator had been. I unlocked the screen. I did not look at his messages. I opened the mail application. I searched my sent folder from 3 years ago and found the email address for the owner of the local coffee shop, the one I had turned down. Do you think they still need a graphic designer? I asked the empty room. Sasha walked out of the kitchen and stood behind the sofa. There is only one way to find out. I tapped the compose button. I began to type. Monday morning arrived with a thick layer of gray clouds over the city. I sat at Sasha's kitchen table with my laptop open. The screen displayed my bank statements from 3 years ago. Sasha sat across from me with a notepad. A loud knock at the door broke the quiet focus in the room. Sasha let Connie inside. Connie carried a white bakery box filled with blueberry muffins. She set the box on the table and pulled out a chair. We did not need to make small talk. We had a plan to execute, and the plan was not about destroying Luke. It was about extraction. I needed to pull my life out of his before the roots completely suffocated me. We went through the checklist together. I needed my clothes and my personal documents. I needed my design equipment, specifically my drawing tablet and my large monitor, which were still sitting on the desk in our shared apartment. Then came the money. I slid the printed bank records across the table to Connie. The papers proved that the $35,000 came directly from my freelance income before I stopped working. It was deposited into a joint account for a house down payment, but the origin of the funds was entirely mine. And the ring, Sasha said. She pointed her pen at the jewelry appraisal receipt we had printed from his email. I looked at the piece of paper. Oregon law treated an engagement ring as a conditional gift. If the person who gave the ring broke the engagement, the receiver kept it. Luke had manufactured a story about his mother to make me leave voluntarily. He wanted to claim I was the one who abandoned the relationship so he could demand the ring back. The appraisal receipt from 6 days ago proved premeditation. He had liquidated me before he even sat down for dinner. I will invite him to my house for dinner tonight, Connie said. She took a sip of her black coffee. I will tell him I want to talk about what happened with you. He will come. He always comes when he thinks he can manage my emotions. And while he is at your house, Sasha added, we will go to the apartment. We will get your clothes. We will get your equipment and your documents. I looked at the dark surface of my coffee. I shook my head slowly. I do not want to sneak in while he is eating pot roast. I want to say it to his face. Sasha stopped writing. Connie slowly put her coffee mug down. They both looked at me. Okay, Connie said softly. Her eyes hardened with a quiet, terrifying resolve. Then I will make sure he comes home early. I unlocked the apartment door at 7 o'clock that evening. My key still worked. The deadbolt slid back with a heavy thud. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. The space looked identical to how I left it 4 days ago, but the air felt entirely different. I noticed the signs immediately. A pair of black leather boots sat next to the entryway mat. They were a size 8. I wore a size 6.5. I walked into the kitchen and saw 2 ceramic coffee mugs resting in the sink. I walked down the short hallway and looked into the bedroom. A faint smear of foundation stained the white pillowcase on my side of the bed. The heavy scent of a vanilla candle filled the room. I was allergic to synthetic vanilla, and Luke never burned them when I lived here. Amber Voss was already marking her territory. I did not let the smell distract me. I pulled 2 large cardboard boxes from the hallway closet. I packed my drawing tablet and my laptop. I swept my folders of personal documents into a canvas tote bag. I packed my clothes without folding them. Sasha was waiting downstairs in her car with the engine running. I was sealing the second box with packing tape when I heard the key turn in the front door. Connie had done her part. Luke was home early. He stepped into the entryway and saw me standing in the living room. He saw the taped boxes on the floor. His face shifted rapidly. First came a flash of genuine shock. Then a ripple of intense annoyance tightened his jaw. Finally, his eyes narrowed as his brain calculated the best angle to play. "What are you doing in my apartment?" Luke demanded. He dropped his keys onto the console table. "Our apartment," I replied. I stood up straight. "My name is on the lease until November. Chris, this is incredibly." He paused, searching for the right adjective. I did not let him finish. "This is what Luke. Dramatic. Crazy. Unstable. Which word did you use with Jess? Which one did you use with the guys?" He stopped. He realized the charm and the pity routines were not going to work. He immediately switched to a calm, reasonable tone. He took a step forward and held his hands up like he was calming a frightened animal. "I think we need to sit down and talk about this like adults," he said smoothly. "Okay," I nodded. "Let us talk about Amber Voss." The blood drained from his face so fast his skin looked gray. He froze for 2 full seconds. He tried to recover his posture, but his shoulders remained stiff. "I do not know what you are." "She never fights," I said clearly. I reached into my tote bag and pulled out the iPad. I tapped the screen to wake it up. The screenshot of his text messages glowed brightly. "That is what you texted Amber. About me. She never fights." He stared at the bright screen. His mouth opened slightly. "You forgot to unsync your cloud account, Luke," I explained. A notification popped up while I was working. "The first real work I have done in 2 years because you told me I was too busy planning our wedding to take on clients." I reached into my pocket. I pulled out the folded appraisal receipt from Morris & Jewelers. I dropped it onto the glass coffee table between us. "You had this ring appraised 6 days before you told me your mother wanted me gone," I said. $8,200. "You were not breaking up with me, Luke. You were liquidating our life." The front door opened behind him. It had been left unlocked. Connie stepped into the apartment. She had driven over and waited in her car down the street for the right moment. Luke spun around. "Mom, what are you doing here?" Connie did not look at him. She reached into her wool coat and pulled out her cell phone. She tapped the screen and held it up. "Luke," Connie said. Her voice was perfectly level. 4 days before you told this girl I wanted her gone, I sent her this text message." She read the words aloud in the quiet room. "I have never seen him this happy. Thank you for loving my boy." Luke stared at his mother. For the first time since I met him, he had absolutely no prepared script. He had rehearsed his arguments for me. He had never rehearsed a defense against his own mother. "Wendy called me back yesterday," Connie continued. "You told her the exact same thing 3 years ago. You told her that I hated her. I crocheted that girl a Christmas stocking, Luke. I watched him crumble. He did not fall apart because I was leaving. He did not fall apart because he was caught cheating. He fell apart because his mask had shattered in front of the only person he truly needed to impress." Mom, I can explain, he pleaded. His voice cracked. No, Connie said. You used my name. You used my love for you as a weapon against people who trusted you. That is not something you explain. That is something you sit with. Connie turned away from him and looked at me. Her posture changed. She was no longer a disappointed mother. She was the administrative director of a commercial construction firm. Kristen, Connie said. The $35,000. I saw your bank records. Mom, that is between me and Kristen, Luke interrupted defensively. Connie ignored him completely. She kept her eyes on me. That money came from her freelance work deposited into a joint account. You moved it in one night while she slept in a cheap motel. She finally turned her head to look at her son. Her eyes were like black ice. You will transfer it back. Every single cent. By Friday. You cannot force me to. I run payroll at your father's company, Luke, Connie said evenly. I manage the accounts and I finalize the yearly bonuses. I am not threatening you. I am telling you exactly what is going to happen. Luke closed his mouth. He swallowed hard. The reality of her power settled over him. He was a project manager, but she held the keys to his financial stability. He could not manipulate his way out of the accounting ledger. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the diamond ring. I set it gently on the glass table right next to the appraisal receipt. Keep it, I said. I do not need $8,000 born from a lie. I looked at the glittering stone. Then I looked at Luke. I changed my mind. I reached down and picked the ring back up. Actually, no, I said. Oregon law says you broke the engagement by lying about your mother. This belongs to me, and I will need $8,000. It is a good start for my new business. I picked up the canvas tote bag. I grabbed the edge of the first cardboard box. I looked around the living room one last time. 4 years of my life were folded into this space. I did not cry. I did not feel the need to scream or gloat. I just felt an overwhelming sense of clarity. I walked out the front door. Sasha was waiting by the curb, the exhaust from her car curling into the cool night air. As I carried my box down the hallway, I heard Connie speak from inside the apartment. She did not yell. Her voice was flat and steady, which was far more terrifying. Sit down, Luke, she ordered. We are not done. Tuesday morning arrived with a steady washing rain. I sat at a small table inside an independent coffee shop on Alberta Street. It was a local place with a faded chalkboard menu and a barista with heavy tattoos on her forearms. I sat by the front window. My laptop was open on the wooden table. I was updating my design portfolio for the first time in 3 years. I drank dark roast coffee. It was completely black. I did not order the sweet vanilla latte Luke always ordered for me. My phone vibrated next to my keyboard. Luke had called 11 times since last night. I had blocked his number after the 4th attempt. I picked up the phone and saw 3 new text messages from Connie. I talked to him all night, the first message read. He has a lot of growing up to do. That is not your job anymore. I am proud of you, honey. I read the words and smiled. It was the first time I had smiled in 5 days. The second message arrived a moment later. He will transfer the money back by Friday. I watched him start the bank process this morning. Do not thank me. It was never his to take. The final text appeared. The apple crisp recipe is yours forever. Do not you dare give it to anyone else. I set the phone down. I looked out the rain-streaked window. Portland was still wet and gray. The city was still beautiful. And for the very first time, it was not Luke's city. It was just a place on a map. I was here. I was not here because someone needed me to be, or because I was following a man to his new job. I was here because I chose to stay. A notification tone chimed from my laptop speakers. An email appeared in the corner of my screen. It was from the owner of the local coffee chain I had reached out to yesterday morning. Hi, Kristen, the email read. Great to hear from you. We are opening a second location next month, and we would love to discuss the new branding package. I read the short paragraph twice. I leaned back in my wooden chair. I took a mental inventory of my life. I had a 38-year-old friend who let me sleep on her couch. I had a 61-year-old surrogate mother who enforced corporate justice. I had a laptop, an engagement ring I would sell as soon as I was ready, and $2,400 to my name. $35,000 more was on the way. It was not a sprawling estate. It was not a perfect timeline, but every single piece of it belonged to me. I did not defeat Luke. I defeated myself. I defeated the version of Kristen who quietly agreed to shrink until she disappeared. The cost of that victory was incredibly high. I lost 4 years I would never get back. I lost a version of myself that died on Sasha's kitchen floor in the middle of the night. It would take a very long time to trust anyone enough to build a life with them again. I dragged my cursor across the screen. I opened my document folder. I clicked on the master file containing my design portfolio and hit the rename button. I typed the letters carefully. KN Portfolio V1, not version 2. Not an update, version 1. I pressed the enter key and started completely over. It is so easy to listen to a story like Kristen and focus entirely on the betrayal of a cheating partner. You might hear about the manipulated text messages, the stolen $35,000, and the cowardly lies, and think this is simply a story about a bad man doing bad things. But if you look a little closer, you will see the real tragedy began years before Luke ever mentioned his mother at the dinner table. The true heartbreak was not that Kristen lost her relationship. It was that she had systematically erased her own identity to keep the peace. Have you ever found yourself shrinking to fit into a space someone else carved out for you? It rarely happens all at once. You start by giving up a small hobby because your partner needs you on the weekends. Then you stop calling a friend who asks too many insightful questions about your happiness. You decline a career opportunity because the timing does not work for your shared plans. Before you even realize what is happening, your entire identity is tied up in being the ultimate peacekeeper, the supporting character in a movie directed by someone else. The most important lesson you can take away from this story is completely practical. You cannot build your home inside another human being. If your foundation rests entirely on someone else's approval, you will have absolutely nothing to stand on when they decide to pull the rug out from under you. A relationship must be a partnership between two independent people. It should never be a hostile takeover where one person gets liquidated to fund the other person's comfort. This brings us to the harsh reality of love and survival. Kristen had barely over $2,000 to her name, while the man she trusted moved tens of thousands of dollars in the dark. Love is a beautiful thing, but love does not pay for a motel room when you are suddenly pushed out of your own life. You must always maintain your own structural integrity. Nurture your own career. Keep a firm grip on your own finances. Maintain friendships that exist entirely outside of your romantic relationship. These things are not backup plans for a failed romance. They are the essential pillars of your own self-worth. They are the things that remind you who you are when the room goes quiet. This story also reminds us that true allies often appear in the places we least expect them. Connie could have easily chosen the comfortable path of blind loyalty to her son, but she chose accountability instead. True love does not mean covering up toxic behavior. It means holding the people you care about to a standard of basic decency. Now, I want you to take a moment and think about your own journey. Have you ever stayed in a situation that slowly drained your spirit just because it felt safer than starting completely over? Have you ever looked around a room and realized the life you were living was designed for someone else entirely? Did you ever have a moment where you finally stopped, compromising, and walked out the door to find your own voice again? I would love to hear about the moment you finally chose yourself. Please share your experiences and your own moments of awakening in the comments below. Your story might be exactly what another woman needs to hear today to finally pack her own bags. Remember, you are never too old, and it is never too late to start back at version 1.